My name is Julianne Bigler, and I'm an educational specialist at Triton Support Services. I'm really excited to share with you some tips on teaching and developing personal space for your students today. Today, we're talking about personal space because it's an aspect of social emotional learning that can be challenging for students of all ages and abilities. And of course, they all need to have a healthy awareness of it. My first tip in helping students become aware of personal space is by creating a physical visual for them to reference, right? So personal space may be an abstract concept, but we can use props to kind of, help them understand and sort of use that as a reference point when they're just beginning to learn. So a couple examples that you could use, you can use a carpet square. You can use a hula hoop. You can start out, with a large hula hoop. You can, use different plastic hoops, depending on, the amount of space you're trying to teach them. Anything that's going to have a boundary, even colored squares on a floor mat. So you can really get creative with this. But once you choose the prop for them, you're going to tell them to imagine that they're inside of a bubble and that they're going to paint their bubble. So, you have everyone standing inside of whatever it may be, a carpet square, a hula hoop, and they're going to explore their personal space. So they can, paint up and down. They can move their arms around inside of the bubble. They're really exploring, what is this personal space of mine and how big is it? How tall does it reach? How far out? Which is usually the most important. Does this reach? So you can get creative with this, but the very first thing that you want to do is really just the exploration of the boundaries of their personal space. My second tip is creating awareness of their body. So, some kiddos do struggle with, proprioception and just the awareness of where their body is in space. If you ever see kids that seem a little bit, quote, clumsy, they knock into things or, maybe hurt themselves often. Sometimes it is due to the fact that they don't have a keen awareness of where their body is. So when you're teaching body awareness, when they're inside of their bubble, you want to teach them awareness of high, medium, and low parts of their body. And you can do this with really fun exercises like, we're going to pretend to pluck a star from the sky, reach up high, we're going to pretend to, you can do something like an everyday activity, like we're going to pretend to set the table, or we're going to pick flowers, from the ground. So you can use kind of these like creative, fun movements to teach them. You can also do different dance movements, inside of their space. Just really getting creative with it. Seeing how far they can reach their arms without, moving their body. You can have them do different shapes, like, we can do a body X. You can have them doing, stretching movements, bending over, and jumping up high. And so it's really just this exploration of what are the boundaries of my body? How far does it reach, right? And also, especially if you are working in a group of students, they're going to be able to see the boundaries and limitations of where their bodies are and be able to compare it to the other students who are next to them. So they're really going to be able to see and explore, oh, this is, how far my body, these are the bounds of my body, and yet it's still not intruding on another person's personal space. So it is really good if you can practice this in a group, for them to be able to really compare, themselves and their bodies to the other kids in the room. Another fun activity is called shrinking room. So this is going to be perfect for a large group of kids, and of course you as the teacher or parent. So each child is going to have a plastic hoop. They are inside of their personal bubble, and you are going to act as this movable wall. And so you're going to move towards the students, and the goal is for them to, move out of the way of this wall, right? So they have to be inside this shrinking room. And so really that is going to teach them how to kind of assert a boundary when something else moves toward them. And they're not bumping into anyone else. They're moving out of the way when the wall comes to them. So it's really kind of teaching, okay, when I'm in a dynamic environment, things are, people are moving all over the place. And to have that kind of, that awareness of when things move, I need to move as well. I need to protect my own personal space as well as others, and being respectful of how others are moving in the room as well. For students who may regularly invade other people's personal space, we may be questioning, okay, how do I teach this student what it feels like to have your personal space invaded? It's not enough oftentimes to just explain to a student or to say, stop doing that or whatever. It doesn't register all the time. They need to be able to feel what it is like personally. So what I recommend for this is having them hold a small hoop. You can use a hula hoop. It might be a little bit too big, but use any type of plastic hoop and have someone else come inside their hula hoop, their personal space, and see how they respond. Are they backing away? Are they saying that's too close? When you can have someone else get too close to them, that can really help them understand, oh, okay, this is what I tend to do to others, and you can help them advocate for themselves, asking for personal space. And also it just gives them a really strong awareness of what it feels like to have your personal space invaded and why space is so important. Sometimes they're not always going to advocate for themselves. But this is the perfect time for us to practice. When I'm coming into your hoop, your personal bubble, you can advocate like this, asking for space. So this can be a good time to help them advocate for their personal space. And this can also give them a good metric of the space that they need to give to others. My third tip is, if your child is old enough, if they have the ability to understand, simply discussing with them. This is a little bit more of the sort of nuanced and advanced concepts of personal space, that this bubble is going to expand and shrink depending on who we're with. So, if you have kiddos that love to be super close, to everyone, they're just really engaged, and, they're as close to, someone they may pass on the street as they are to, mom, obviously, they can benefit from just having it explained that a personal space does change depending on our relationship with the people that we're interacting with at any given time. Role-playing is not only fun, but it also just gives them a safe space to actually practice what you to discuss. So, you can pretend, that you're one of their best friends. You can pretend to be their teacher. You can pretend to be a librarian at a library, and, have them practice that personal space depending on who your character is. This is also a great time to practice advocating for personal space. If they're not comfortable, being able to express that in a gracious way. Thank you so much for tuning in to Triton Support Services tips for social emotional learning and how to develop personal space. I would love to hear about your successes in developing personal space with your student or your child. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, Triton Support Services, or find more information on social emotional learning on our website, tritonsupportservices.com.